number one, you have to teach your God to know. I mean, you have to teach your children to know God. But the second thing, the most critical one, after helping your children to know God, is to respect authority. As I mentor young people, I can tell what kind of family they grew up. See, if their parents have not taught them about authority, they have a very difficult time to learn to deal with God, because God is authority. And our faith life is God-centered. It's God-centered. It's not our self-centered. So whenever I see these people who have a very difficult, difficulty to transition from self-centeredness to go to God-centeredness, I found them, they never learned authority when they were young, when they were children. It is very important. You have to teach your children about authority. That does not mean you have to be tyrant or, you have to. It's like a scary environment, all the time. It's only one time in their life. I mean, we will go there, but a little bit more in detail. It's very simple, but as long as, even though you love your children and they can feel love from you, especially from fathers and also mothers, the children has to learn about authority. There are certain things that they have to obey, very simple things. Maybe we'll just go over that. To teach authority to children come up one day about, my son-in-law, he asked me when he got, his oldest son is right now is 9 years old. But when he got his baby, he said, "Dad, when can I start disciplining our children?" He says, and his son was 6 months old. I said, "Right now." He said, "Now?" He said, "Yes." As long as you make a simple rule and be consistent, they will learn and they will be happy. The problem is the parents. Always the problem is parents. You know the TV program called The Dog Whisperer? Yeah. Always the owner is a problem. They have to fix the owner. The same thing with the children. As they grow about 3-4 years already, some of them is already 2 years old, they know what your parents say. You make a very simple rule, such as, I will not give you any coke. That's a very simple rule. Or you cannot walk along the street by yourself. You have to hold the hands with the parents all the time when you're on the street while the cars are passing by. It's a very simple rule. You have to give them a very simple rule and be consistent. And here's how you can teach your children. I didn't make up these things. Let me give you a quick background, because as I have to mentor them and raise these graduate students, they were singles, then soon they got married and they got children. Now their children are already at universities or whatever. Not only I had to really study and learn and to raise my own children, but I had to help all these people to raise their children, and I still do. So I'm sharing my experience. The way you can teach authority is very simple. You make a very simple rule that they remember, and your son remembers, your daughter knows. And your son or your daughter knows that you know that they know. Make sure. And then there's a day it comes a day that your son or your daughter intentionally challenge that authority. They will look for the opportunity. Hey, we are all born as sinners, okay? We all have a sin nature. Don't ever say they were born with goodness. Don't ever say that. The Bible says we are all sinners. So with a sinful nature, they will come and try, look for the moment when they watch you, that you got excited because either your parents came or you have some guests or some pastors came or whatever. They will look for that moment and they will challenge you. This is I want to quote. Or they will throw it in your hands and try to run by itself or whatever. It's very clear. You look for that moment. This is one time in your life. So you need to really wait and look for that moment. It's very critical. Then you grab them and spank them. In California, you have to be very careful when you spank. If there is anything left, and if any authority knows, they will take your children away at least for 1 week. With all my teachings, there was a lady, she pinched her daughter so badly, it left a mark, and the teachers at the school saw that and immediately reported the police, and they took all 3 daughters away from her for 1 week. And she was crying. I said, I told you, don't pinch like that. Anyway, we live in a strange state. But look for that one critical moment and you spank them. Then they will know the authority the rest of their lives. You don't have to do that again. Well, there's always an exception. Before I forget, for those of you who love to read books, like my wife, James Dobson has books for every age of your children, including in college, including high school and colleges. You can tell I studied most of them, and plus more. Anyway, so teaching your children about authority is very important, and you don't have to exercise your authority. Dad said this. You have to listen to it. You don't have to do that. Don't do that. God is not like that. The back to father. As the children grow up and trying to meet God, their initial image of God is all tainted. It is so clouded by the image of their biological father. So many people, whether they are daughters or sons, when they try to meet God, it is so clouded by the image of their biological father, they struggle. So, of course you can tell now, I have to teach others how to get out of it and get free from their bad images of their own biological father, because nobody is perfect. But this is not time. I would run out of time if I do that. So being a father, a biological father, is a tremendous responsibility that you have to teach authority, but doesn't have to threaten them every time. It just be a loving father. But please do make, one time in your life, when they challenge you, then you have to spank them. And my wife keeps saying, don't use your daughters anymore as an example because they are, already grown ups. But I don't have any intimate examples. So. Our daughters were very good. They listened to So I was looking for that moment until they were like 8 years old. If they are a strong-willed boy, probably they will come a lot earlier. Like my grandson, it already came. My son-in-law took care of it. Now he respects authority. He knows his father has a final authority, not his mom. But anyway, because he's a strong-willed son. But your daughters, it came way late until they 7 or 8. The second thing is you need to teach the spiritual value, like honesty. And when you have to show how serious you are about that spiritual value or that honesty. You know, don't go out, easy on them. After you made it very clear, and it's a very I learned from looking back what my mother did. My mother passed away last month when she was 99. And man, praise God, she still had a very good memory. And of course, 1 year before she died, she fell and broke her hip bone. And doctor said they cannot do anything, just have to have a bed rest. And that really deteriorated her. But I'm glad I've seen her, every other month, literally. I saw her in February, I saw again in May. Then I saw, man, she's deteriorating badly. So I was getting kind of ready, but on my way to Moldova, Dominican Republic, she passed away, and I had to go to Korea. Anyway, but she raised the 7 children, and studying all this, man, she was a perfect mother. Certain value, she took it very seriously. I remember when I was in the 2nd grade, we got the big money to pay for some reference books, and that day the reference book didn't come, as usual in those days in Korea. Nothing was reliable. But I said, oh, it's good. On the way home, I got big money in my hand. And so I spent some, without any permission from my mother, and took my friend, and we had like mochi, like a big cake, and went home. And I don't know why these things happen. I threw it in my, backpack. In those days, we were carrying handbags. The school bags. I threw it away. Then all of a sudden the books came out and all the money came out. And my mother says, what's that money? He says, uh-oh. I said, well, And luckily my father was there. He came for the lunch. And my father, until he died, he had no notion of money. He was a scholar. He was a principal of high school. Then my mother was a businesswoman. And my father has no idea. As long as he brought the full paycheck, my mother should be able to raise 11, including 7 children and another housemaid and my grandmother. He thought it should be plenty, while it was not enough. It was starving. I had no lunch, and my mother has to go out to the different city because of the reputation being the wife of those days a high school principal. It's well known in the whole city. So she could not do anything. She went to the other town, went to Busan, and sold pears. And after 3 days, 3-4 days, she come back. That's how she made money, and helped us when we were young. Anyway, so my father, was listening what I'm saying. He said, well, I told the whole story. The book didn't come, so I didn't pay. And on the way home, I wanted to spend some money. And you know what my father said? My father told my mother, says, you should give them some allowances. I said, well, yeah, good for my family, And my mother didn't say anything. Allowances while we were studying, So I think she was looking for an opportunity. Now, I don't know about a week later or whatever, we had a, art class that we have to buy the paper, and the paper was like, you can say like 1 cent, and she gave us 5 cents, and 1 cent is one sheet. Anyway, she gave us like a nickel, and I came home, and that time 1 cent is one small candy, very small candy. So I brought back 2 cents, and my mother says, "What did you do with the 3 cents?" So I said, "Oh, I had to buy paper again and again, because." But I was telling a lie. I used the 1 cent and got the paper, but I used the 2 cents to buy this candy and took care of it under him. And I told my mother, says, I had to use it again, so I had to buy 3 sheets of it. She did not say anything in that day at the lunchtime in front of my father, who came to eat, because our house was very close to school. She waited until my father went back to school. Then she prepared the whole house, make sure she can catch me. I did not know what was going on. And she was preparing big stick, and when she was ready, she grabbed me. And she started hitting me until my father comes back in the night, about 5 hours. She hit me so hard. And I ran away, and she already planned so she could grab me again. And she hit me again. And I was beaten for 5 hours. And I never lied to her again. I learned in my life, lying is bad. Now, you don't have to do that to your children. Not that extreme. All I did to my children was only one time. When we went out to the church meetings, and we told them, that in those days when they were like 8 or 9, we had a rule at the house. So you can watch TV 30 minutes a day during the week. And on a weekend, you can watch 2 hours. So they can watch movie. And the weekend includes a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Once they agree that rule, man, they will find the best program, best educational program. You don't have to even look for and decide for them. They will look for it. When they are allowed only 30 minutes, they look for the best educational 30 minutes program in the world, and they just watch. Anyway, that time we had the airline at home. My father was at home, and before we came, we called my father and says, "How are the children?" And my father says, "No, your children are downstairs watching TV all night." I said, "Oh, okay." So we came home, and of course, when we came home, they were all upstairs studying. So I waited until my father went to bed quietly, and I asked them to our master bedroom, which is good, big. And of course, like my mother, I prepared everything. And I challenged them, "Did you study tonight?" They said, "Yes." "And how long did you watch TV?" They said, 30 minutes. So by that time, I locked the door, and I said, "Okay, I will ask you again, how many minutes did you watch TV?" They insisted. Already they took the wrong, route. They continued, said, "Yes, we watched it 30 minutes." They looked at each other. How can Dad know anything else? So I grabbed them and started hitting them. I said, lying is not allowed. The God is watching you all the time, and even though we do not know God watches you, the lying is not allowed in this house. And of course, they will never forget in their lifetime. It's only one time, but you have to be decisive and very clear and be consistent. It's your duty. If you read the proverb, you don't know how many times the Bible says you have to beat you have to make sure you have to treat your children with a stick. If you don't, you will regret it, and you're doing the right thing for your children. But in reality, you don't have to do that many times. It's normally once or twice at best. Again, the Deuteronomy says you have to correct your children diligently, meaning that be consistent. Don't be lazy. "Oh, I'm tired of it, man. He's doing that again, Mama." And just trying to forget, well, how come the Sunday school do not teach that, whatever. Don't ever do that. You have to be consistent and diligent. Diligently teach them again and again. If they don't, often they pretend they do not understand you. Speaking of children, I've seen the lady who has a PhD in education. Man, she puts a baby, 6 months old baby, goes to the bed, goes to sleep, no problem. 8 hours sleep, in the morning she wakes up. Why? Because she was determined and consistent and trained. I mean, speaking of the babies, baby knows immediately, instinctively they knows if I cry, some help comes. So they cry and cry, then you hold the baby, until they go to sleep. Well, it feels good. So if you put the baby in the crib, then you start crying and crying. You let the baby cry, make sure that the baby has enough burp, so nothing, and make sure its diaper is dry, and let the baby cry. 2 nights. Normally it will stop. A strong-willed one, they will go to the next level. They will vomit. They will vomit and it scares you. Then the parents look at it and say, well, we should do this, whatever. Well, don't do that. Vomiting is okay. Nothing wrong. Just clean it, put the bed, let the children send the same signal. You okay? Nothing wrong? Go to sleep. Don't get antsy because of any actions and the planned actions by children. The children is by instinctively trying to control you. I've seen guys, the 2 boys completely control their parents. And you may say, what's wrong? Yes, it's big. One day, these kids get out of control. Like one is 5, one is 6. They got out of control. Keep watching, comic movies. I kept warning them. Says, you got to pick up the book. It says, Dare to Discipline. That's the title of the book. Dare to Discipline by James Dobson. You better read that book. I keep telling them. They didn't do that. And one day he says, last weekend, and one day he says, what happened? The 2 boys out in the backyard, and younger one is screaming on the top of his voice and is running around the backyard. He went out and what's wrong? And nothing wrong with him. I mean, he was screaming, running out. He saw the big one bleeding and fainted. And what happened was, all they kept watching, this comic movie. They were hitting, hammers with the boom, boom. They sounds good. So younger one hit with his hammer, his older brother, Then he didn't expect it. He said, now it's musical, boom, Instead of his older brother fainted and blood kept coming out. He got all screaming and running around. He said, you're going to kill your children if you don't discipline. Don't make God regret that they gave you these 2 children as gifts. So then he started reading. You know what happened? He read. Now the boys act completely different in front of him. Mother did not read. She was a businesswoman. She was kept running out and she wants to make money. In front of her, they act same old way. It's really bad. You know how the kids will read you. I do that all the time. I travel a lot. I run into a lot of babies. I became very popular with the babies. You know why? Because if I get a close contact with the babies, I start to bless the baby. I talk to the baby in my heart. Oh, you're so beautiful. Even though I don't say that, the baby feels it immediately. They look in my eyes, they immediately, even though they cannot hear, they cannot talk, they feel it. I say, you are so beautiful. Man, I love you. I want to hold you. You know what they do? All of a sudden, the baby stretches out and touches me. All I did was I said it in my heart. They can feel it. One day I was sitting in the aisle seat, and the mommy sat with the baby, and another big man was sitting on the other side. And the baby kept touching me, and I was touching her, and we were playing. And this old man, the other Adeshi wanted to do the same thing, tried to touch her. She immediately pushes up. She pushes her hands up. They are very clear, even though they don't say anything. They are very clear. Well, one day I got in big trouble. I was flying from Seoul to Pohang, and this lady sat with actually about 2 years old boy, and I prayed to God. I said, God, why is she sitting next to me? Should I evangelize her? We have only 40 minutes, and I said, okay. I need to talk about faith life. Yeah, okay, I will do that. So I said, why you have a faith life like in Mass? She was so scared. Yes, I will go to church. Yeah. 3 years ago, I went down and get married and have children. Since then, I never went to the church. Yeah, I know every night, 1 p.m., just my phone rings and it's like ringing from my God and it says, I have to go to church. I said, okay, calm down. It's okay. Pray to God and ask God. God will show you the church in Pohang, and you will. What's good? Meanwhile, the boy looked at me and, he wants to come with me. So I said, okay. So, he and I. The problem was, now the plane landed in Pohang, the boy would not go to his mom. So I said, okay, we'll go down to the traps and we'll walk and get into the building until. So I was carrying with a young woman following me and going down and traveling. And as soon as we got to the building, this Pohang, postcom, these people, about 5 people lined up waiting, welcoming me. I said, okay, here's the boy. And the boy immediately started crying and looking at me, and they were saying, this young woman, this is the boy crying, I'm pretty sure they never asked me, but I think the misunderstanding was clear. Just deal with me later. We have to diligently correct the babies. Now, they said education is an imitation. Said that education is an imitation.
Education is an imitation.
You have to show an example. You have to show. We never had to tell our daughters to read Bible because they saw us reading Bible every night. They do that. I was really flabbergasted, amazed. Naturally, when they go to school, they start reading the Bible. I said, And when they're in the junior high, they start reading Bible every day, and high school and college, and even now. And he said, they saw us. They saw us reading Bible every night and many days, and saw their mom reading Bible all the time. Show them an example. Mission as a parents continue. Spending time together. Now, especially fathers, you are busy. You have to negotiate the time first. Don't say, I will play with you. Then children expect all night. Then after 10 minutes, no, that is busy. I make, often same mistake to my grandchildren. I said, I came to play with you. Then they expect all day. But I said, no, Harabiji has to go to a meeting. If the tears come out, don't go. They could, I made a mistake. I go there and says, hey, Harabiji has 10 minutes to play with you. What do you want me to do? He says, horsey. Well, I become horse. Okay. Whatever, but they know already. They ask me to leave that. Whatever 10 minutes or 5 minutes they ask me. They don't know the exact time. But you have to communicate. Especially I saw the mom is, treating their children about 2 years old and 3 years old. If they grab something like a knife or fork, they immediately, grab it and take it away. They start crying. You hold it together to be safe, then you explain before you snatch it out. You explain. They don't understand, but they appreciate your explanation. They appreciate your kindness that you're trying to explain. They will let it go without crying. You know, one time saw statistics. I collected these things. When teenagers get in trouble, they said, what do you do? Whom do you like to be? Of course, number one is, be friends. Number two, like music or whatever. Go to mom or stay with the mom is like the 35th solution. Because of a modern mom is so busy making money, especially in California. Never spend time with their children. When my daughter, she had a very good job at the UC Irvine, the MBA program, the administrator. And when she got her first baby, she was tempted a little bit not to give up the job. And called my wife, says, Mom, what about, pray about, see if you can babysit, so I can continue my job. My wife immediately says, no, that's your baby. Your responsibility to raise your children. Your husband makes enough money. You are not studying. Raise your children. Stay home. And of course, she got a little bit upset, but after a day or two, she called her mom back. Mom, you're right. I prayed, and yes, I will stay home. To this day, she stays home. About 9 years. Now she gets really antsy. Now she got a new job, part-time, because she wants to spend more time with the children. Nowadays, there are so many ways. You can have a job through the internet. You can have a part-time job. She has a part-time job, but she doesn't have to go to work. She can do all this market research on the computer while children are playing upstairs. Try to spend more time. Express your love daily. I mean, make sure you let your children know. There are good things you need to learn from the first generation, especially like a dedication, commitment. Especially at the GMI, even we have a spirit of like martyrdom or whatever. I mean, for the mission, which is good. But don't mimic the bad things. They act like a confusion. You're supposed to know I love you anyway. What's that? How do I know? Man, my father was like that. Man, I grew up in that environment. I hated it. Because of that, I thought my God is like that. It's not good. Show your love. Now, you need to develop, ownership and responsibility. We'll go through more in detail by the age group. So, and I want to talk about this one, especially in the leadership in the 21st century. You need to help your children to develop 8 Qs. Now, actually, it's 7 Qs because IQ, when they are born, normally already is determined. And IQ has nothing to do with the success, you know that. But EQ is the most important one, the emotional quotient. Mostly is developed by mothers. Father has to contribute a little bit, but think about time the child spends, about 10 times more they spend with their mom. So mother decisively affects what kind of EQ the child has. So we'll go there a little bit more in detail. Nowadays, SQ is very important. It's social quotient. If a child is, the first generation, all they're concerned is whether they get a good scores at school. But one day he carries the machine guns and kills his friends and he kills himself. Because we never let his social quotient get so strong. I will tell you even recently, I really challenged one of the GMI missionaries. Says, you paid too much attention to your children to get a high scores. But did you ever pay attention or pray for your children to have a social quotient? Social quotient is very important for the leadership. And it's rooted in God's love. We don't want to raise God. Does not want us to raise children to be self-centeredness. Don't care about other people. Then there's the CQ is very critical. It's a change quotient. The world is changing so much. Hey, to develop the change quotient, you should start showing the example. Don't, we should throw it away our paradigms. I mean, I run into this missionary at the Prayer Mountain. He used to be a missionary in Myanmar. I'm sure he's going back there. He says, how is Myanmar? And we were talking. He says, there are so many rich. Oh, they are so rich. I said, hey, that's natural. The rich people is everywhere. Did you go to Myanmar because they are so poor? No, they are very rich people. I mean, we have wrong paradigms. The world is changing so fast. We need to really adapt and show that capability to our children. GQ is another global question. I try to train my grandchildren. Says, hey, Harvard is going to New Zealand. Show me on the map, then I will give you $1. So they go around and look at. Normally they cannot find it. I try to give a hint. It's someplace at the center. Then I have to eventually give them $1. Global question. This is important. Take them to a trip. This is so wonderful. You take them to a trip early. Man, one of these days I love to take my grandson to the mission. If my daughter allows, I need to walk on her a little bit. The other day I took my grandson to a hiking. First time. Just Harabaj and the grandson only alone. We two both went to the hiking together. My daughter got so concerned. What time will you be back? Will you be back by 2:30? He said, don't worry, okay? Don't worry. It'll be safe. We'll be back on time. We'll go. And my grandson, every noise, he says, Harabaj, that's a rattlesnake. This is no, not every noise is rattlesnake. I know when the rattlesnake rattles. I heard many times, so don't worry, okay? That's a small, small bug is making noises. Don't worry. But he keeps saying, Harry, look at the big hole. There's a snake hole. Not every hole is full of snakes. Global question, financial question. Especially first generation, they work so hard. They save so much. And they got the cash, but they don't know what to do with the cash. So they lost it all. It's a pity. They don't know how to manage their money. I'm glad my son-in-law is getting into the financial services. So it's really, I don't need to direct it. I don't have enough time to cover all this, but RQ is of course a religious question. We need to raise our children dealing with the Hindu religion, Muslim religion. Don't let them get scared. Just let them see what it is, and how different it is, and how devilish it is. You can just teach them. And of course, Holy Spirit question, because we used up SQ for the social question. I emphasize these things to be developed even at a Christian CEO school, even in other countries. If you do not develop these things, you cannot be a world leader. Now, one thing we have to do, and especially, it's so good for the pragmatism. It is so good, but we took, and frankly, candidly, when I see the EM people, you got so Americanized, and American pragmatism is so good, but to the point, you leave the God out. And yes, you're so faithful at your daily work is very important. You have to do that. But that's not all. You have to expect something from God. We have to stick with a vision from God. We have to look at our Father's plan, and even though they're so big and so remote from us, we have to expect. And same thing, we have to do that for our children. Yes, they have to do their homework well and all these, basic things. And look at Joseph. in the Bible. I don't have time to cover it, but thank God that Vision School here that it's KM. It's a Vision School in September. The pastor Lee, he invited me to run a revival meeting, so we're going to do a Joseph series. But when I look at Joseph, he was so dedicated in daily work, and he superbly dealt with all the daily work. I mean, there's a proof. He mastered language. He mastered even numbers and commercial laws. And by the time he came down to Egypt, he gets so famous. He was sold. The reason the Potiphar bought him is that Joseph became so famous slave that his owner would not sell him. Potiphar is the only one who could afford to buy him. About 30, 50 times more money he paid as a slave. Why? Because Joseph prepared. Joseph was so dedicated and daily work. At the same time, Joseph never forgot the vision from God. We should expect our children never forget. It's God sent them to this world. God has a plan for them. We should expect them. It's not, don't just, make a box for him. Oh, he's like this. Oh, he loves this, but he has to do this. He can do this well. He doesn't do this well. It's like a first generation mentality. First generation mentality ruined the second generation. All they cared was, we want to send them to the good university. Harvard, whatever, friend of mine, to the extreme. Every time we get together, the high school alumni, he was bragging, my two sons went to Harvard, So what? After he graduated, he was fed up with it. He brought the graduation sheet to their parents and he threw and said, don't bother me anymore. I'm not going to graduate school. I'm not getting a job. I have done anything for you. To this day, he doesn't do anything. I don't know how he survives. First few times, our high school alumni revenged him. So your son graduated from Harvard, what does he do? Now, nowadays, it's so bad. Shh, don't say that. It hurts him. That's the extreme. Don't inherit a similar thing from the first generation. We need to expect them to be God's children, to fulfill God's will. I mean, who could say Joseph, if you're Joseph's parents and watching, remotely says he's going through all this, went to slavery and even went down to jail, oh, stupid, why he got so close to that crazy woman, whatever. Would you expect that Joseph to be the leader of the world? We should. We should. I pray for my grandchildren, and I pray for my mentees. Of course, I pray for the Pastor Shine, which includes you, I guess. To the leaders of this world, God is the intention. I shared with the God's vision in Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2. Okay. Rest of the hours, whatever I have, each age group, I want to share with you. There is a focus in each age group. The people now, there are so much studies and there's so many things done. EQ is easily. I mean, EQ is normally determined in this age by their mother. How can you develop? Train your children to be patient. Let me say that again. Just the simple things, discipline, and have them patient. Teach them little patience. That's how they develop EQ. When they want something, it says, okay, I will give you, but wash your hands and wait. Mom, I want it now. It says, yes, I will give it to you, but I will give it to you 5 minutes later. And often, the children has, nowadays, I can see the children wants to play, games on iPad. So, okay, you play 2 minutes, then give it to your brother. So 2 minutes is up, now it's your brother's turn. You need to share and you give it to him. And be consistent and discipline them. I love to watch these people at the airport. Often I have to wait. One time I was at San Jose Airport, this lady shows up with the 5 children. Man, that's my sight. Man, I want to watch her, So, she has, about 11 years old and down to like, 2 or 3, I guess, the youngest one is 3, but 5 kids. And the plane was late. Man, my show started, man, that is so interesting. I can tell her, she's a mom. She's a mom. And she brought something, and she came and, she gave to them. So 3 little children can start tearing apart and playing. It says, okay. They said, but she made a rule. Says, no, you play 2 minutes, then wait, then you play 2 minutes. So they were waiting, all of them, while the 2 other ones. And man, I was so amazed, and I was just, just literally honoring her, just, wow, she's doing it. And see what happened. The second one got in trouble. Got so bored. She's normally, neglected one. Older one is now old enough, she knows how to behave. But the second one, she wants to get some attention, but she was running around some belts, and the mom said, no, don't do that. And no, she was so boring and running around. You know what she did? Mom quietly went her, walked her, and she squeezed her shoulder. Very quietly. He said, calm down. I told you to stop. Man, I was so sad. Wow! She disciplined them so, make the communication. She was handling, so well, all 5 of them. Man, I was really amazed watching her. Give them a little discipline and teach them a patience, little patience at a time. Don't say, no, I cannot give it to you. This chocolate, I'm going to eat it, but I'm not going to give it to you until tomorrow. Your son will die. Don't say that. But do not make up intentionally to give them a pain. No, they will misunderstand. That's not enough. But you will find an excuse. It comes naturally. Mom is busy. My hands is wet. So wait. You're not supposed to open the refrigerator. I will grab this melon bar for you. It's way on the top. Wait. Sit down and wait. Things like that. Well, no, you have a melon bar. You have to come to the kitchen floor while tiles are. Do not eat at the carpet. These simple things, you have to give them a discipline and will develop EQs. Especially for the waiting, it's really challenging for the kids. We talked about authority. Now, at this age, knowing what I know, and if I raise my children again, at this age, the children builds up immunity. Do not try to overprotect them physically. They develop immunity. I would love to take them out to Arizona for a whole week. So they have allergies, so be it. They will fight it out. And they will not have allergies the rest of their lives. No, I'm serious. I had a good Mormon friend. I was working for Motorola in Phoenix, Arizona for 3 years, and 3rd year I developed allergy. There's the grass called Bermuda, and every time I try to walk around it, my neck's swollen up. And he's king of allergy. He goes to the doctors every week and I'm not sure whether every day or every week, but got a test, and then he says, Daniel, don't ever go to the doctors. I was not going anyway. I was so scared to go to the doctors. But he said, if you go to doctors, then you're done the rest of your years, the rest of your life, you have to go see the doctor. Got a shot every week, and it's so bad, it's so painful. Don't ever do that. Man, fight it out. I says, fight it out, that's a good word. So I got a swollen neck, and I could, touch it, I can feel the fluid. said, no, I will fight it out. I'm not going doctors. And that time I was not really filled with the Holy Spirit or truly really accept the gospel yet. But whatever it was, I said, no, I'm not going doctors. I'm not going to see doctors. And I'm going to fight it out. And it disappeared. I truly believe what doctors say, between age 1 to 3, you expose them. Do not intentionally expose them to the germs. That's not what I'm saying. But just take them to the trips naturally. I'm glad my daughters take them, to Hawaii or to Mexico or to New York, whatever, They just take them on a trip. And they develop immunity. Do not try to overprotect, oh, the weather is cold, we have to, clothe them. No, let them play. If they do not want to clothes, yeah, as long as they have diapers, just let them run around. When we grew up, we never had any clothes, I remember even I was 3 years old, I never had clothes. But too bad I remember these things, In those days, the old grandpas wanted to say, oh, we want to catch that, pepper, no, don't touch me, Develop immunity in these areas, these ages. So it's good for them. And don't try to physically overprotect them. Teach God. Simple thing you can do every meal, pray. I'm so glad, our grandchildren, they're trying to fight each other. When we go there have dinner, says, no, I want to pray, I want to